What is up, everyone? I'm ATRon The Gamer, and this is going to be the first episode of my Diablo 3 Auction House series. And in this episode, I'm going to be talking about DPS and damage, and how you can go about increasing your overall DPS. So, before we get into that, I want to talk about the fact that the auction house is probably the greatest tool that we have right now in terms of acquiring gear. So if you haven't hit up the auction house yet, I would really recommend that you do it, because the auction house is amazing. It allows you to basically search for any kind of gear that you're looking for. Definitely hit up the auction house if you haven't already, but let's jump into this, and we're going to be talking about DPS like I said already. So I'm going to put a list up on your screen right now. And as you can see on this list, I have all of the things that are going to increase your overall damage regardless of what class you are. Obviously the last one down here being the primary stat, so that's going to be dexterity for demon hunters and monks, strength for barbarians, and intelligence for wizards and witch doctors. But as you can see up here, increased attack speed, this is one of the greatest stats right now. It is going to be nerfed probably next patch, but right now it is a pretty amazing stat. I'm sure it's still going to be an amazing stat when the patch comes out. It's just going to be probably nerfed. I would guess that Blizzard is probably just going to reduce the increased attack speed on all items, but we'll see what happens. That's just what they have claimed in the patch preview. The next thing is increased crit hit damage, and this is very complementary with increased chance to crit, because higher chance to crit you have, the more crits you're going to get, obviously, and the bigger crits you can get when you have more increased crit hit damage. Obviously, all of these are complementary to each other. The more you have of each one, the higher damage is going to get, because they complement each other. So if you have more increased attack speed, you can get more attacks off, which is going to mean that you have an even higher chance to crit because you are attacking so much more. And obviously, the more crit hit damage you have, the higher damage your crits are actually going to output. So that is going to basically put your damage through the roof and boost it exponentially. So these are some of the stats. There's no specific order in which one is the absolute best, although increased attack speed is definitely pretty up there if you're going to just go one, but I would try to get all of these, because I just personally try to maximize damage. So look for crazy items with these specific perks or itemizations. Next thing I'm going to be going over is the list of items that you can actually get some of these perks and itemizations on. So there's only actually a few, and put a list up on your screen right now. And as you can see, you can get it on your weapon, you can get it on your amulet, you can get it on your rings, you can get these stats on your gloves, and you're not going to be able to really get it anywhere else. There are going to be exceptions to this rule, because there are some legendaries that have increased attack speed, and I'll go over those in a little bit. But for the most part, rares anyway, you're only going to be able to find those stats on these items. So if you've been playing Diablo 3 and you've been on the auction house as of late, you probably noticed that a lot of two-handed weapons have really taken a drop as far as the price goes, with the exception of some of these ridiculous weapons like this one. But for the most part, you can actually find some decent weapons that are either 1,000 DPS or maybe a little less, maybe a little more, but you can find some pretty good deals for a couple 100,000 now. I remember a couple weeks ago, I think I dropped like 700,000 on a weapon that had over a K DPS. That was when some of the weapons were at their peak. Now they have fallen off, and you can find stuff for really cheap. If you take off the increased attack speed, you'll probably find an even cheaper weapon here. And your weapon is actually going to be the biggest source of damage increase, so the DPS in your weapon is huge. This is probably the most key thing to increase damage, is the DPS on your weapon. Of course, if you have stats to supplement damage, like a weapon like this, for example, probably isn't going to be as good as a weapon with, say, let's say a 1044.3 with DPS with nothing other than just the damage. Probably is not going to be as good as something like this. Let's set up the parameters for something that's been bettered. Crit hit damage, and nothing for 200. Okay, no, there is something for 200k, but let's go a little bit higher than that. Let's go to 400k or 450. And I mean, even though this is 880, this is something that's actually comparable to that last weapon that had 1044, so almost 200 DPS difference. But because this has increased attack speed as well as crit hit damage, this is actually something that you could compare to see if it's actually similar damage to that other weapon, which is pretty nuts. I also want to show everyone that you can pick up a nice two-handed mace or melee weapon for any of your classes if you're interested in that. These aren't that expensive either. It's only 300k for a 1200 DPS weapon, so that's pretty nuts. But where you're going to find the real crazy damage, and these prices are going to be ridiculous actually, is the one-handers, and this is a pretty nutso one-hander. This is 99 million, so I don't think I'm going to be able to afford this anytime soon. I don't know the rest of you, but it has some pretty good stats on it, some pretty good itemization. This would be really good for a monk, really anybody, just because of the DPS, but the dex makes it even nicer for monks. But one-handers plus an offhand, I personally think are probably better if you can get a really nice combo. The thing is that you have to have 2 good items as opposed to just having 1 good item. So that makes it a little bit harder to acquire that second item, and because they can be so comboed so well together, some of these are actually a lot more expensive. So this 890 DPS one-hander is actually 400,000, and if you looked at that for two-handers, you're probably looking around for 890 DPS, probably less than 100k easily. So I mean, the difference in price is pretty exponential. So if you can get an amazing one-hander, if you can afford it, or if you find one, use a really good one-hander. Anything over 1000 DPS with one-hander is ridiculous. Even like 900s is still pretty damn good, because you can get offhands for either a wizard or a witch doctor, and as you can see, these offhands have over 300 top-end damage, which adds a retarded amount. So you are getting a ridiculous amount of damage if you have a good offhand, well, an offhand with high damage, and a good one-hander with high DPS. Really quickly, I want to talk about quivers for the Demon Hunter. So this is going to be specifically for the Demon Hunter and the Demon Hunter only. And I would recommend setting up your search parameters when looking for a quiver to give a skill bonus to one of these skills. Mine happens to have elemental arrow damage, and mine gives me 6%. It's not very good. I think you can get maybe even up to 10. I have seen up to 8, but I would recommend getting a quiver that increases the skill of your choice that has been pre-selected out of these specific skills. So I would definitely get a quiver with one of these skill damage increases on it, because it's going to increase your overall damage. And again, you're only going to be able to find increased attack speed, crit hit damage, and crit hit chance on gloves, amulets, and rings. Next couple things that I'm going to be going over are some of the legendaries that are going to increase your damage as they have increased attack speed. Bojanglers happens to be one of those items, as they're a pair of boots that can increase your attack speed. If you notice right here though, this pair of Bojanglers actually reads to have the stat increases attack speed by 12%, and it's going for 1.2 mil. This will probably not sell unless somebody has no idea what they're doing when they come across this. Now basically, the way this stat reads and the way this stat is written, increases attack speed by, if that is on a pair of boots, any other piece of armor, with the exception of a weapon. If this is on a weapon, it's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with increases attack speed by and then set percentage on a weapon. But if it's on any piece of armor, regardless of what it is, it's not going to increase your attack speed, because what it's actually trying to do is it's trying to increase the attack speed for that specific item. So this stat right here is actually trying to increase the stat attack speed for these boots. It is trying to it's trying to allow you to attack faster with your boots, but you don't attack faster with your boots. You attack faster with your weapon as well as your overall character. So what you're really looking for to increase your damage and attack speed is a stat like this, where it reads attack speed increased by. This will actually affect your character as a whole. It will affect your overall attack speed, and will actually increase your attack speed, as opposed to an item like this that reads increased attack speed by. So make sure when you're looking at armor pieces that have increases attack speed, make sure that they have the correct stat. Otherwise you're wasting your time and money, because these boots will increase your damage and attack speed. These boots will not. Beckon Sail is a chest piece that can also increase your attack speed. It's really good for Demon Hunter. As you can see, it is Demon Hunter only, so gotta keep that in mind, as it is a cloak, but it is something that can and will increase your damage. And last item I'm going to look at for legendaries that's going to increase your damage that normally that slot wouldn't is Mempo of Twilight. As you can see, gives increased attack speed, well, attack speed increased by. Again, keep a lookout for that specific stat, as you want it to be attack speed increased by and not increases attack speed by. Mempo of Twilight is one of those helms that can do that, and the Bojanglers and the Beckon Sail are also items that can increase your attack speed, which is going to increase your damage. Keep in mind, once again, that increased attack speed by will not increase your damage, but a helm like this, attack speed increased by, will increase your damage. But that's going to do it for this video, everyone, so hope you had something to gain from watching this. If you haven't already, please subscribe to me on my YouTube channel. You can also follow me on Twitter at ATRon The Gamer. If you like this video, please click the like button. Hope to see everyone next time for more Diablo 3, which in the next episode, I will be going into more depth on buying items. Until that time, I am ATRon The Gamer. Later, everyone.